Good morning, good morning, good morning. You guys are so kind. I am so excited to be with you. Happy New Year. Let me try that again. Happy New Year. Hey, there we go. So glad to be with you. Vivid Church, welcome to 2026. And I've just enjoyed worshiping with you already and excited to share God's word with you here in just a couple moments. Hey, do me a favor real quick. Just greet your neighbor. Turn to your neighbor and just say, neighbor. Okay, hang on a second. I'm just going to coach you real quick. I do a lot of coaching. You need to act like you like this person right now. Okay, we can do better. It's 2026. Look at your neighbor. Say, neighbor, it's an honor to sit next to you. See, that was great. That was great. We're getting started good. Okay, now look at your other neighbor, the one that you just ignored a moment ago, who's maybe slightly offended with you. Look at your other neighbor. Say, other neighbor, it's an honor for you to sit next to me. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You got the best neighbor upgrade ever. Like, this might be the best it gets in 2026 from you sitting next to me. So excited to be with you. And my wife is with me. She's right here in the front with us. My wife, Julie. Make her feel welcome. Woo! Later this year in 2026, we celebrate our 30th wedding anniversary. Let's go. Woo! And I will go ahead by way of picture and introduce the rest of our family to you. So they're going to put it up there on the screen. This was our Christmas picture this year. So my wife and I, our son Caleb on the far right there, and his wife Jessica beside him. And then right in the middle of the picture beside our daughter-in-law Jessica, that is Ellie. She's the baby of our family. How many of you are the babies of your family? I'm the baby of my family. Come on, draw attention to yourself right now. This is what we do. We're the babies of the family. Hey, do y'all know the Bible says the babies of the family are the best members of the family? The most blessed members, the best looking members of the, okay, that's what I'm going to preach about. Okay, right beside Ellie to her left, that is Emma. She's the middle of our three. So Emma is on staff at our home church in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Go Steelers, it's a big day. Sorry, Isaiah, I love you, buddy, but okay, he's a Ravens fan. I found out before this, that's my microphone. I knew that was going to happen. I knew that was coming. So if I start sounding really, really weird, it's because there's a Ravens fan running audio today. Okay, so Emma is on staff at our home church, Allison Park Church in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in youth ministry. Our daughter Ellie is a junior at the Belonging Co. College in Nashville, Tennessee. Our son Caleb is a freelance graphic designer and a worship leader. And then the best people in the picture are the grandbabies. How many grandparents we got? Come on. Whew. So we got 3 grandkids, Heather, James, Levi, John, and in my wife's arms, that's Molly. She just joined the family back about 6 months ago. So that's the Holt family, minus the dog, my beloved dog. Any dog lovers? We got dog lovers down here? I felt that. I could feel the love there. So I'll clarify, though, by dog, I mean dog over 50 pounds. If your dog's not over 50 pounds, that's not a dog. You can pick it up in a person, carry it in a little bag with you. Not a dog. You own a football. Punt it. It'll be fun. No, I'm just. So, hey, we're going to be in Acts chapter 27 today, and a little bit in 28. And so, if you want to turn there, you can get there. How many of you starting the year off? You got your old school leather-bound Bible. You brought it with you. Come on. You got like your initials on the front. You got a carrying case for yours. This next level, right? Okay. All you cool people got your iPhones. You can go there, too. If you have an Android, just put that away. That's embarrassing. You don't want anyone to see that. So 29 years ago, my wife and I, we got married. We started in Pittsburgh. We have lived in Pennsylvania our whole life. And then in 2020, we came back to Pittsburgh. But first year we're married. We're living right in an area of the city called the North Side. Not the greatest little neighborhood, but that's where we were. My dad pastored a little inner city church there that I had grown up in, and I was on staff there. And so it's our first year of marriage. And a lot of changes in life, obviously, when you first get married. Some of you've been through this, right? And so it's the middle of the night. I wake up, right? I'm a light sleeper anyways. I wake up. My wife is over here on this side of the bed. When we got married, she claimed that side of the bed. She said, that's my side of the bed. I think women get claiming rights. Is this true, ladies? You get, okay, this. And wise men who are like, I'm married now. I'm just glad there's a woman in my bed. You take whatever side you want, baby. It's okay. And all the men said, amen to that. Okay. So she's over on this side of the bed. I wake up. I hear something. I don't know what's going on. And but it's her voice, and I hear my wife, and it sounds like this. It sounds like this. My wife's voice. She's like, Jesus, 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 Jesus. She's saying the name of Jesus over and over again. I'm a newlywed. It's the middle of the night. I'm confused. My first thought is, this woman that I married is so spiritual. She prays in her sleep. And I'm like, initially I'm thinking, I don't know if I can live up to this like standard, but I realized after another, second or so, I realized something's going on, something's got her rattled. I don't know what's happening. And so I just kind of roll my head over and I'm like, hey baby, you okay? Is everything all right? Like, what's going on? Are you okay? And she whispers it back at me and she says this, she's like, there's a man in the room. There's a man in the room. Okay, now remember the context. I'm a newlywed. It's the middle of the night. I just woke up. Okay, I'm not fully awake at this point. I'm not really fully interpreting what she's saying to me at this moment. And so my response to her is, I know, baby. I'm right here. She kind of whispers, shouts at me now. And she's like, no, there's another man in the room. There's another man in the room. Okay, now I'm awake. Now I'm wide awake. I'm like, I need to be the man and do something about the other man in the room right now. And like this is my moment to shine. Like I'm thinking to myself, baby, you're gonna be glad you married this man, because a full display of manhood is about ready to go down right here in this moment. Actually, I wish any of that was true. I was scared out of my mind. I'm thinking there's another man in the room. I didn't know what to do. I grabbed the sheets. I threw them over my head. I was like, Jesus, 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 Jesus. Okay, now she's actually fully awake herself, and she's looking at me, and she says, what are you doing? I look back, I'm like, there's a man in the room. You said that there's a man in the room. She says, baby, I was having a bad dream. There's not another man in the room. And then she said this, apparently there's not even a man in the room. How many of you are like, bro, you kind of earned that. You deserve that for you. You brought that on yourself. Well, this is what happens. We all have moments like this in life. You have moments where you misinterpret the moment, right? Anyone know what I'm talking about? Like you saw it one way, but that's not actually what was happening. You interpreted it according to your context, your feelings, what you were going through in life. And then when you were able to zoom out a little bit, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I kind of missed the moment there. Like I didn't really see what was happening in front of me. Okay, that's actually what happens here in our text today. All right, we're going to be in Acts chapter 27. We're going to pick up together at verse number 21. But before we start reading it, and we'll have the verse on the screen as well. But before we start reading, let me give you kind of the broader context of what's taking place here, because otherwise you won't fully be able to pick up, here's where we're at in the story. Our text centers around the Apostle Paul. Everyone say Paul. Okay. By this point in the book of Acts, the Apostle Paul has done remarkable things. He has started and completed 3 different missionary journeys. He has planted close to a dozen different churches. Half of the books of the New Testament, or about 2/3 of the books of the New Testament, were written by Paul. And he's already written about half of those at this point, including the book of Romans, which is his most theologically dense book that most of our doctrine comes from. And at this point in Paul's life and ministry, Paul has really one great mission left that he still wants to complete, and that's he wants to go to the city of Rome, and he wants to preach the gospel to all of Rome. He's written a letter, Romans, to the people of Rome, but now he wants to travel there. He wants to spend time with the people that he has sent a letter to, and he wants to establish and strengthen and build up the church there in the city of Rome, because Paul knows that at this moment in history, this moment in antiquity, the city of Rome is the most influential city in all of the world. And if the gospel can be established there, a great city that has imports and exports from all over coming and going, that the gospel can have tremendous impact around the world. So Paul wants to get to Rome. And when we pick up in our text here just in a moment in verse 27, not verse 27, verse 21, chapter 27, Paul is on a boat, and he's on a boat on his way to Rome, albeit not exactly the way that he thought he was going to get there. At this moment in chapter 27, Paul's a prisoner. He's been arrested. He's being sent to Rome to stand trial. And so he's being treated as a prisoner among other prisoners on the boat. And so on the boat, you have 3 different groups of people. You have the sailors that are, in charge of the vessel. You have the soldiers that are guarding the prisoners. There's your 3 groups of people. And Paul, because of his great and vast experience on the ocean, because he's done 3 different missionary journeys at this point, has recommended to the captain of the ship, not a good idea. We probably shouldn't be traveling right now. The weather is going to turn against us. I would recommend that we wait. And apparently the captain of the ship has said, you're a preacher. I'm the captain. It's going to go the way that I want it to go. Okay, all of that kind of brings you up to speed with where we're going to be at in verse number 21. Everybody got it? Say, I got it. Okay, here we go. Follow along with me. Okay, after they had gone a long time without food, Paul stood up before them and said, men, you should have taken my advice not to sail from Crete. Then you would have spared yourself this damage and loss. They're in the middle of a storm. They've been in the middle of a storm for several weeks now. It's been a ferocious storm. They haven't been able to get control of the tides or the currents. They've cast over all of their food supply, all of their tackle, all of their gear. They've thrown everything over in order to lighten the ship. Earlier in the chapter, it says that they took ropes and wrapped it around the hull of the ship in order to keep the ship from breaking apart. All of this has already happened. And then finally, Paul says this, you should have taken my advice not to sail from Crete. Okay, for all of the spirituality that Paul has, I love the fact that he's not afraid to simply say, I told you so. How many of you are like, oh, I've said that so many times? Parents of teenagers, right? I told you so. I told you, right? Young adults, you're like, I told you not to date that guy. You should have listened to me, right? So this is Paul. He's like, you should have listened to me. You should have listened to what I said. However, this is what Paul says. He goes on. He says, but verse 22, but now I urge you to keep up your courage, because not one of you will be lost. Only the ship will be destroyed. I think Paul's trying to encourage them here. That doesn't sound very encouraging to me. He's like, the ship's going down. You all are going to be all right. Everyone pick your piece of wood that you're going to float on in the wood right now. We're going down. We're going to be okay. And then here's the reason why. Verse number 23. Last night an angel of the God to whom I belong and whom I serve stood beside me and said this, do not be afraid, Paul. You must stand trial before Caesar. That's Caesar. This is Rome. This is where he's going, right? And God has graciously given you the lives of all who sail with you. Pause for a second here. This is Paul. Paul's saying this. Translation. Paul's basically saying, y'all should be glad I'm on this ship. Like Paul's basically saying, any ship that I'm on, it can't go down, because I got to stand trial before Rome. Last year, we travel quite a lot. And so last year, how many of you remember last year? I think it was early in 2025. We had like all the planes that did like crazy stuff. It was like 2 or 3 weeks in a row. It was like the one plane like landed upside down or something. It was just wild stuff. And I was getting on a plane like a week after all this had gone down. It has always been my practice when I get on a plane, I pause right before I get on the plane and kind of like lay hands on the plane, like, Lord, bless this plane. But on that day, I just kind of paused, and I just kind of had my hand on the side of the plane, and I was just praying. I was like, Lord, you just bless this plane. And the guy behind me was getting a little annoyed because I was taking a little bit too long. He didn't really understand what was going on. And I wanted to say to him what Paul said. I wanted to turn around and say to him, bro, you should just be glad I'm on this plane. Like, seriously, we're going to be okay because I'm going to be on this. This is what Paul's saying. Okay, like, hey, last verse for now, and then we'll jump back in. So he says this, verse 25. So keep courage, men, for I have faith in God. That's the central phrase of our message here, our time together today. I have faith in God. So everyone say that with me. I have faith in God. Say it a little bit louder. Okay, look at your neighbor and say it with a little bit of boldness. He says, for I have faith in God that it will happen just as he told me. Nevertheless, we must run aground on some island. I mean, it's just kind of a funny way to end this moment of great encouragement. I have faith in God, we're going to be okay. But we're going to have a shipwreck. But we're going to be fine. Everything's going to be good. This plane is going to go down, but we're going to be all right. This is what he's saying. Okay, now this is interesting. This whole text is interesting. I have faith in God. And Paul, I think Paul gives us a couple thoughts here about faith that can serve us well, not just today, but really can serve us well for all of 2026. It's the first Sunday of the year. It's your first Sunday back as a church, a little bit of Christmas holiday break there, right? And so I want to teach you a little bit about faith from this text here and from a little bit more that we'll read in chapter 28. Faith that will help you in 2026, right? How many of you recognize, like the Apostle Paul, you don't always know what storm you might find yourself in? Anybody with me? You don't know what might be waiting for you in 2026. Some of you are like, I'm very well aware of what I came out of in 25. I don't necessarily know exactly what I'm going to face in 2026. Let me learn from the life of the Apostle Paul how his faith guided him, how his faith moved him on when he found himself in circumstances and in situations and in moments and in storms that he didn't necessarily see coming. Here's what Paul teaches us about faith. Here's number one. Everyone say number one. Faith moves us from reason to revelation. Faith moves us from reason to revelation. Okay, let's just break this down here for a second. They're in the middle of a storm. They've been in the middle of a storm for many weeks. The most skilled people on the boat, the sailors, have no idea how to handle this storm, so it must be exceptionally difficult and bad. I mean, the news is bad. They've thrown over all the tackle, all of the gear. They're preparing themselves for shipwreck. They've lost all hope. And it's in the midst of this moment that the Apostle Paul steps into the equation and says, I have faith in God. Everything's going to be fine. The ship might go down, but guys, we're going to be all right. Now, this is what I call faith moving you from reason to revelation. Let's talk about it for a second. Reason, logic, my way of thinking. If you're on the boat with Paul and you're looking at the circumstances that all of them are faced with, you could very easily think, there's no hope. There's no chance. This situation, this circumstance, we've done everything that we possibly can. There's no reason for us to think that there's anything but death and destruction in our future. This is what faith does for you. Faith moves you from a place of my focus is on my reasoning, my intellect, my knowledge, my way of thinking about a situation or a circumstance to a revelation of what God is doing in my life or who God is in my life. Because what does Paul say? His hope is not in the sailors. His hope is not even in the storm diminishing its force. He says, I have faith in, come on, you can do better, Vivid. I have faith in, this is Paul teaching us how faith operates in the difficult moments of one's life. I don't know how to handle this job. I don't know how to handle this. I don't know how to handle this situation, this decision. I don't know how to handle these kids. I don't know how to handle this debt. I'm not sure what to do about fill in the blank. And Paul says, you begin by saying, I have faith in. I don't have faith in the paycheck. I don't have faith in the business. I don't have faith in the economy. I don't have faith in the political leaders, right? I don't have faith in our government. No. I have faith in, right. That doesn't always make sense, though, does it? Right? I mean, there's just times when you look at your situation or your circumstance or your season and you think, I can't make any sense of this whatsoever. Enter faith. Enter faith into the mix. Enter a revelation of who God is. When I was in middle school and high school, college, I loved to play basketball. Loved to play basketball all through middle school, high school, college, all of that. But when I was in middle school, my youth pastor at our little inner city church up in Pittsburgh, he used to love to, take me out and say, hey, let's go play ball together. And so I think it was like on a Sunday morning, my youth pastor, he pulls me aside. He says, hey, what are you doing tomorrow after school? I said, nothing. He said, I'm going to pick you up after school. We're going to go play ball together. Oh, awesome. This is going to be great. And so he does. He picks me up after school. I think I was like 14 years old. I mean, there's no cell phones at this point, right? There's no like text your parents or anything like that. So I had completely forgotten to tell my mom and dad I wasn't going to come home on the school bus because Pastor Rick was going to take me to play ball. I just didn't tell him. Honestly, I don't even think that I thought it was a big deal because I was with like a family friend, right? So my mom and dad are home. The school bus comes by at the end of the day. I don't get off the school bus. They're like, where's Aaron at? They call the school bus company. They're like, we don't know. He didn't get on the bus. They call the school. They're like, well, he was at school today. We don't know where he's at. They start to get panicked. 10 minutes turns into 20, into 30, into an hour. Several hours go by. I found out after the fact, they have not only gone to the school bus company to look to see if I fell asleep and was just still on a bus somewhere. They had also gone to the school and walked through all of the classrooms and hallways of the school to see if something had happened to me. They have no idea where I'm at. Apparently, they're holding like a prayer vigil at my house, okay? And I come walking back in after playing basketball with Pastor Rick for several hours. And the moment I get home, I hear my dad's low, commanding voice, where were you? And I realized at this moment, like, I don't know what's happening here. And so my mom is crying. My dad's like, we were worried and this and that and on and on and on and on and on. And I'm not exactly sure what I said in this moment, but I know that it wasn't appropriate and probably was very sarcastic, because whatever it is that I said, I forget now, whatever it is that I said evoked such a response in my father that he leapt from the couch he was sitting on and started coming towards me at a speed, moving in like, so I've never seen that man move that fast in my life. I realized my life is in danger right now. And I went running into our dining room where there was a large round table, and I'm like, you know, I'm just like, you know, and all of my dad is yelling at me. He's like, I am your father. It's like the spirit of Darth Vader came all over him, and he's like, you better recognize who I am in this moment. Listen, can I speak that over your life in 2026? Can I speak that into whatever storm or circumstance or situation you find yourself in this calendar year? Get a revelation of who your heavenly Father is, and get a revelation of the one in whom you have placed your faith. I have faith in, yes, because the strength of my faith is found in the one in whom I have placed my faith. This is what Paul's saying here. I don't have faith in the captain of the boat. I don't have faith in the Roman centurion. I don't have faith in the lifeboats or in the life preserver. I have faith in, and that's when faith moves you from reason to revelation. Okay, let me just so we're all on the same page here, right? Let me just break down the word faith for you real quick, because we use this word a lot in church. Let me define it. I'm going to borrow a definition from Dr. Tony Evans. I love his definition. He says this. He says, faith is when you and I act like, everyone say act like, is when you and I act like everything in his word is true, even if we don't understand it. Even if it doesn't make sense to us. Even if my reasoning, my human reasoning, seems contradictory to what is in his word. Faith says I'm going to act like. That means there's not a feeling. That means that my obedience and my faithfulness it's not directly connected to how I feel at any given moment, because my feelings are typically based out of my thinking. So because I'm thinking this way, I'm feeling this way. And if my thoughts and my feelings are contradictory to the Word of God, I've got a decision to make. Is my faith in my feelings, or is my faith in my God? Is my faith in my way of thinking, or is my faith in this is who God is in my life? I'm going to trust God. Paul could have easily said to the angel, I don't know what you're talking about. We out here on this boat. We got no food. This boat is going down. And you're saying we're going to be okay? Paul could have looked at the angel and said, what you talking about, Willis? Come on, that was a great show. How many of you remember that show? It was great. You should make your kids go back and watch that show. It was a great show. You know, no. Faith moves us from reason to revelation. I love what A.W. Tozer said about faith. He said this. He said, faith doesn't contradict reasoning. It soars above it. I pray that you have faith that grows stronger and stronger in 2026. I pray that this is the year where your faith leaps forward in its strength and in its endurance, because you recognize the strength of your faith is not found in your intellect, your reasoning, or your feelings. The strength of your faith is found in the one in whom you have placed your faith. I pray that you get a revelation of who God is in your life and what God is doing in your life in 2026 at a greater level than you've ever experienced. Faith has to move you from reasoning to revelation, but we're not done yet. Paul's not done teaching us something here about faith. Okay, all right, let's move on. Let's move back to the text here. Now we're in chapter 28. We're going to skip forward to 28, verse number 1 and 2. Okay, they've already crashed at this point. They got the life preservers. They got their swimmies on. They're off the boat. Okay, once safely ashore, we found out that the island was called Malta. Everyone say Malta. And the islanders showed us unusual kindness. They built a fire and they welcomed all of us because it was raining and it was cold. They found themselves on Malta. This is interesting. This is not exactly where Paul was planning on going, was it? Paul was planning on going to Rome. Paul wanted to go to Rome. Paul wanted to preach the gospel in Rome. Paul had made provision to go to Rome. Paul had written a letter to the people of Rome. They were anxiously awaiting his arrival there, even though he was coming to testify and be on trial. Paul is supposed to be going to Rome, and he finds himself not in Rome, but he finds himself in Malta. Have you ever been to Malta? I'm not talking about the tourist destination, Malta, for those of you that love to travel, and that little tiny island that you can go to. No. I'm talking about Malta. I'm talking about that unexpected turn of events in your life. Malta. Have you ever been to Malta? The job firing that you didn't see coming? Malta. The downturn in your health that you weren't prepared for? Malta. You ever been to Malta? The wayward child, the wayward son, the wayward daughter. The one that you never thought anyone ever been to Malta. Yeah. The marriage ending that you just didn't see that one coming. Malta. The downturn in the economy. Malta. The confusion of this. We've all been to Malta, have we not? Some of you are like, bro, I think I've got like preferred status on Malta, actually. Now that you're saying it that way, I feel like I got frequent flyer miles and they only go to Malta. It's like one destination. Like I got stock in Airbnb just on Malta. But Paul finds himself on Malta, the place that he really never intended on going. You don't see anywhere in all of the Acts or all of Paul's writings where he talks about a vision or a passion to go to the island of Malta and to bring the gospel there. But Paul finds himself on Malta, and here's what happens next, right? Verses 3 and 4. Paul gathered a pile of brushwood. As he put it on the fire, a viper driven out by heat fastened itself on his hand. When the islanders saw the snake hanging from his hand, they said to each other, "This man must be a murderer." Isn't that just like people? I mean, come on. Isn't it just like people? When you and I find ourselves on our personal Malta, everybody wants to judge. Everybody wants to look at what you're going through and be like, I could have told you that was going to happen. You should have listened to me. Now you find yourself in this situation. See, you must have earned that for yourself. You deserve that. Like the family that you come from. The mistakes you've made in your past, your history, everything that you've experienced in your life. I mean, don't you think you've kind of earned some of that for yourself? I mean, this is what they're doing to Paul here. They don't know who Paul is. They have no idea. They saw this man get bit by a snake. He's trying to build a fire, and they're like, oh, he deserved that. He was spared from the sea, but he deserves this right here. This man must be a murderer. Back to the text. He escaped the sea. The goddess Justice has not allowed him to live. Everybody wants to judge you and I when we're on our Malta. And for that reason, it's really easy to become miserable when you find yourself in a Malta season, don't you think? Miserable on Malta. Sounds like a movie. Sleepless in Seattle. Right? I mean, right? It's just like it's just easy. It's like I'm in Malta. Everybody's judging me. Everybody thinks I'm here because I deserve to be here. Everyone thinks I'm here because I made all these mistakes. I'm in Malta. I wasn't planning on going to Malta. I didn't see this coming. I didn't see this pain. I didn't see this grief. This one wasn't on my bingo card for 2025, right? Not this one right here. See, you and I, we've been through some stuff, have we not? We've been through some situations. We've been through some circumstances. And when you find yourself on Malta, it's easy for you to become miserable and for everyone else to judge you when you're on your Malta, when you're in that kind of season. But can I just encourage you right here at the very beginning, the first Sunday of 2026, can I just encourage you, even if you're here right now and you say, I'm in a Malta season right now. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's difficult. Yes, you don't have full understanding of why you're in the season that you're in. But can I remind you, you're sitting in church. You're still here. You're still worshiping. You're still giving. You're still going. This is why everyone around you is confused about who you are and what you're all about. Because you should be sitting in a bar somewhere because you're in a Malta season, but you're at church and your hands are lifted high and you're praising Jesus in the midst of all of it. It's why the devil himself is confused about you in this moment. Because yes, I might be in a Malta season, but I still have my faith in. Back to the text. We're almost to point number 2. Point number 3 goes real fast. Don't worry. Okay. All right. Back to the text. Verses 5 and 6 now. Okay. I didn't tell the media guys this, so hopefully you guys can roll with me. I'm going to change translations real quick. We've been in the NIV translation. I want to switch over to the TSV translation. You might not be familiar with that one. That's the Taylor Swift version. Okay. So just go back with me to 2014 if you can. Shake, shake, shake. Okay, we're not going to do it. Okay, we're not going to. Taylor, I was going to ask you to come and do that song at the end, but no, it's okay. They're not feeling it. They're not feeling it. We'll stick with the NIV. But Paul shook the snake off into the fire. Do you see the connection now? You still don't like it. It's fine. It's okay. I'm just a guest. You don't have to put up with me much longer. It's okay. He shook the snake off into the fire. He suffered no ill effects. The people expected him to swell up or suddenly fall dead, but after waiting a long time and seeing nothing unusual happen to him, they changed their minds, and they said he was a god. My guy just went from murder to deity in like 5 minutes, like a span of 5 minutes. I mean, this is like, be really careful. Can I just say this to you? Be really careful who you surround yourself with when you're in a Malta season. Because some people want to judge you and some people want to deify you. Some people want to put you down and say it's all on you, and some people want to be like, oh my God, I mean, here's what's happening in the text. It's like they said he was a god. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, verse 7 and 8. There was an estate nearby. It belonged to a man named Publius. Everyone say Publius. The chief official of the island. He welcomed us into his home. He showed us generous hospitality for 3 days. Pause for a second. Oh, so this man must have some sort of wealth and influence because he has a large enough estate that he can invite a whole shipload of sailors, soldiers, and prisoners to come into his house, and he can provide for them for 3 days. So he must have enough space for lodging, and he's got, people to help with all the meals and all this kind of stuff. And so at some point during this 3 days, news begins to break regarding verse number 8, because verse 8 says this: his father was sick in bed, suffering from fever and dysentery. Okay, so this is kind of how I kind of see this moment playing out. This is just in my mind. The text doesn't specifically say this, so this is conjecture at best on my part, but here's how I kind of see it working out. There's probably a large table there, and you got soldiers and sailors and prisoners, and they're all eating. I don't know, they made some good chicken noodle soup or something, and Paul's sitting there. He's one of all of them, and he's just kind of enjoying it. Finally, he's starting to feel warm, and he's getting some home-cooked meals, and this is good. And at some point during this meal, word begins to spread that Publius, the host of this grand party, so to speak, that his father is sick unto death. The text says that he had fever and dysentery. That doesn't sound like a death sentence in American culture, but in this moment in history, it was. And so this news begins to spread, and at some point, Paul hears this. And so I almost see it like this. Like Paul's he's just eating his soup. He's got a big old piece of bread that, and it's great. And at some point, he hears this news, and he probably, maybe he just pushes his chair back from the table, and he just starts to look around, and he's kind of taking it all in. Maybe he kind of crosses his arms like this, and maybe he kind of looks up to heaven, and he starts to have a little private conversation with God, and he's almost like, oh, now I understand why I'm here in Malta. Here's what faith does for you. Number one, it moves you from reason to revelation, but from number two, it moves you from misery to mission. It's easy to get miserable in Malta. It's easy to feel as if you've lost your way. It's easy to think that there could not possibly be any reason why God would have permitted or allowed you or I to go through a Malta season until you get a revelation of the mission that he might have for you there in your Malta. And Paul all of a sudden is like, oh, well, now I know why I'm here. Because there's someone sick here. We're just not getting along today. We're going to leave it there. It's fine. It's smart water, but it's not acting like it. So, okay. Paul's like, I got a mission here. And the text tells us that Paul gets up from the table and he goes into the side room and he lays hands on Publius' father, and that man is healed in the name of Jesus. Can I just speak this over your life for a second? I know that some of you, you've been through some terrible Malta seasons. I know that some of you are in some right now. I know that you would love for me to kick off your 2026 by preaching to you that your Malta is coming to an end, right? Quick, and now it is over. 2026 is a new season. 2025 was Malta. 26 is a new moment for you. I didn't actually come to preach that message to you today, Vivid. I actually came to preach this message to you. Take another look at Malta. Take a deep look. Make sure you have the right interpretation. Don't find yourself in the middle of the night saying, Jesus, Jesus, there's another man in the room. Take a good, hard look at your Malta season. Take a deep look into the confusion. Take a deep look again into the pain, into the depression, into the grief, into the trial. Take another look again at the tragedy that you're going through or that you've been through in your Malta season. Is it possible that God allowed you to come to Malta because there's a mission for you? Is it possible that God allowed you to detour from your preferred choice and location in your world called Rome? But is it possible that God said, no, before you get to Rome, before you get to your preferred destiny, I need you to take a pit stop in Malta because I have a mission for you in this place. I'm not calling you out of your Malta again. I'm calling you to take another look. If you will find mission and purpose in your Malta, you will have a rebirth of your faith in 2026 that you didn't see coming. You will all of a sudden begin to look at every situation and every season of your life and simply be able to say, I don't fully understand all of it, but I see what you're up to, God. I can't comprehend all of your ways, and all of your thoughts are higher than my thoughts. Your ways are higher than my ways. That's what the prophet said, right? But I don't understand all of it. But God, I can see that you still have purpose and mission for me, even when I find myself in a Malta season. Why is this so important? You will live your life the way that you label your life. And if you listen, you're going to live 2026 the way you label 2026. And if you label it as it's Malta, it's pain, it's grief, it's detour, it's not what I was planning, I don't deserve this, this isn't where I was supposed to be at this point in my life, I didn't see this happening at this season of my life, I didn't see this happening in my family, I thought I'd be married by now, I thought I'd have a job by now, I thought my career would have taken off by now. You will live 2026 the way that you label 2026. But if you have faith, I have faith in, that moves you from reason to revelation and from misery to mission, you will live your life like Paul did. Here's point number 3. This is real quick. We're done. Come on, Taylor, join me. Right? We're done. Here's what happens. Faith moves you from reason to revelation. Faith moves you from misery to mission. Faith moves you from ruin to revival. Because here's what happens in the text. We got to go back to the text, right? I'm not even going to be able to read all of it to you, but verses 9 and 10 says this, and then this happened. The rest of the sick on the island came, and they were cured. And they honored us in many ways, and when we were ready to sail, they furnished us with all of the supplies that we needed. The text doesn't specifically say it in verses 9 and 8. You got to read through the rest of Acts number 28. But here's actually what happened, and this is what the text says. It says that Paul basically set up shop and had revival services in Publius' house for 3 months. And over a period of 3 months, all of the news began to spread throughout all of the island. And so all of the sick on the island began to come, and they were all healed. Not only were they healed, but they found Jesus in this moment. A revival broke out in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea on a tiny little island called Malta because Paul allowed faith to move from reason to revelation, from misery to mission, and from ruin to revival. I mean, just moments before Paul is healing everyone, he's on a boat in the middle of the Mediterranean preparing for absolute ruin. And weeks later, he finds himself in the middle of a 3-month revival. Because of what? Faith. God, that works too. I have faith in... Look at your neighbor and say that to them. Yeah, I have faith. I have faith in God. May God move you from a season of ruin to a season of revival if that's where you've been in your life. May God open your spiritual eyes in 2026, even on this day, if you found yourself captivated by the misery of Malta. May He renew a spark in your heart of the mission that He wants to reveal to you. I have faith in God. I was 18 years old. I was going on my 4th mission trip. I had just graduated high school the year before, and now I was in May of that year, we were headed to a city called Krasnoyarsk, Siberia. Long travel. We flew through Russia and St. Petersburg and all the way into this dense, remote part of Siberia. every day we would go to different schools, different universities, and we would hand them a Bible. We were passing out a Bible. It was really just the Gospels, the first 4 books of the Gospel, kind of a parallel of all of them together. But we would just go in all these schools. And so there's about 50 of us on the team. There was maybe about 10 from our church and then a bunch of other churches that were there on this trip as well. My youth pastor, Pastor Rick, that I mentioned earlier, he was leading us on the trip. And so about halfway through the trip, my youth pastor, Rick, he pulls me aside. I'm 18 years old. I'm called into ministry, and I'm doing an internship at my home church. And he pulls me aside. He says, hey, listen, Aaron, tomorrow we're all going to divide into really, really small teams, and we're going to go to a bunch of different schools all at the same time. He said, so you and 2 members of our team, the 3 of you are going to be your own little team. We're going to give you a driver, and we're going to give you an interpreter, and they're going to take you to a school somewhere in the city, and then you just preach the gospel, however they want you to do it. I am scared out of my mind. This is not what I saw coming in this moment. I wasn't really in my head prepared for this. And so here we go. The next morning I wake up, didn't sleep much that night. I jump into this random car, this random driver, an interpreter, and we head off to this school. I am low-key hoping that when we get to the school, the principal will say, we're just going to have one big assembly, like in an auditorium like this, right? And I'm thinking, we'll get in there, we'll do it, and then we'll be gone. She says to us, I'm going to take you classroom by classroom. At this point, we realized we're going to be here all day. And we were. Classroom. Lunch break, classroom. We get to the very last classroom, the last period of the day, and I'm thinking, we're almost done. Here we go. And we finished the presentation, and I'm like, we did it. Great, let's go. Nothing crazy happened. It's awesome. And as we're packing up our stuff, the principal, who had been with us all day, she had heard every single presentation, who we found out afterwards was an atheist. She comes up to me and she grabs me by my arm and she says, Aaron, through the interpreter, she says, Aaron, across the hallway, there's a young girl. She's 14 years old. Her name is Olga. She wanted to come into one of the classrooms today to hear your presentation, but she was too afraid to join because, and she starts to kind of get emotional, and she says to me, Olga has some issues. Olga was born with a major birth defect, and she has a deformity on the back of her neck and her shoulders, and she's hunched over, and she barely walks, and some days she's just on a wheelchair, and some days she's can barely walk on canes and crutches. But the students make fun of her, and so she just didn't want to come into any of the classrooms. And so, would you mind? I'm thinking she's going to say to me, would you mind just going over there before you leave and give her one of the Bibles and just say something nice to her? And that's what I'm thinking she's going to say. That's not what she said. She looks at me and she says this. So if the God that you just told all of my students about is actually real, then you go over there and you heal her. I have faith. I am, man. I'm 18, man. I'm young. I'm scared. I just, and I was frantically trying to think of a way to get out of this moment, to be honest. And but she didn't even. She just grabbed my arm and she just started pulling me. And I'm like, come on, guys, let's go. And we cross the hallway, and there's little Olga, and she's sitting in the back of this room, and it's kind of dimly lit. I'll never forget it. And we walk up to her, and we start talking to her through the interpreter, and we start telling her, and we give her the Bible and everything. And and that's not good enough for the principal. She wants to see why we have faith in God in this moment. And she starts barking orders to us. She's like, come on, pray for her, heal her. Come on. She's antagonistic. If your God is real, heal her. And so we start laying hands on little Olga. Have you ever been in a moment, whether here at Vivid or maybe at another moment in your life, but have you ever been in a moment where when you started to pray, you could physically feel the manifest presence of God just kind of, come on. Yeah. Oh, I pray that you've had this many times in your life. And in that moment, that's what happened. God just showed up. I was like, I could feel it. And for me, oftentimes, just the way that I'm wired, I guess God made me this way. When I feel that, I just tend to tear up, so I was tearing up. I'm just kind of crying a little bit, and I'm like, man, God's here. God's doing something. And then I look at my 2 other team members that were there, and they were both crying too. I was like, oh, God's definitely here. Where 2 or 3 cry, there he is. That's what. And so then I look, the interpreter's crying. I was just like, this is wild. And so the principal's she's like, and so we get done praying, and little Olga lifts up her head, tears just streaming down her face. She says to us through the interpreter, she says, the moment that you laid hands on me, the God that you pray to, she didn't even know how to say it. The God that you pray to must have done something, because I felt this warm, powerful sensation start at the top of my head and go all the way down through my back and all the way through my legs and all the way to my feet. And then she says this, she says, so I think that I probably should get up and walk now. And I would love to tell you that I had great faith in this moment. In my head, I was thinking, like, this is a bad idea. Like, you should just be happy and we're just good. I was into the hit and run prayers back then. We're just going to pray, text me, let me know how it goes, just it's cool. You know, little Olga gets up and she starts, not perfectly, but she just starts walking and kind of hobbling around this room with no canes, no crutches or anything. Now the principal's crying. Now the taxi cab driver's crying. It's just like, it's all going on. This moment happens. I'm 18 years old. 10 years later, I hadn't thought about it in years. I find myself sitting in a service like this in our Pennsylvania Assemblies of God district meetings that you have every year. You do them here in South Carolina. I find myself sitting in the meeting, and the head missionary that had organized that trip and many others was actually the guest speaker that night. And at the end of his message, he gets up and he starts to talk about how teams 10 years prior had gone all the way into Siberia and they had gone all over. And I was like, oh, that's cool. We did that too. He says, we had some teams that went all the way to Krasnodar. So I was like, well, that's crazy. We went there too. He said they had one team that one day went to one school and they met a little 14-year-old girl named Olga. I was like, no way. Like, are you like, and then I'm thinking, like, it's Olga. Every other girl's name is Olga, it can't be the same girl. And then he holds up a picture of little Olga, and he says not only was Olga almost completely healed of her physical deformity and her inability to walk that day, but now 10 years later, she's the leading missionary spreading the gospel in this part of the world. And if little Olga were here today, she's not little anymore, but if she were here today, she would say something like this to you. What you've been through in your Malta season doesn't have to determine what comes out of you in 2026. Your history doesn't have to determine your destiny. And just because you've been through storm after storm after storm and setback after setback, it doesn't have to deter your faith, because the strength of your faith is found in the one in whom you've placed your faith. I have faith in